we're all getting this infra fatigue, right? It's like L2s are like the Uniswap forks of this cycle. And I'm trying to invest in like consumer apps for like a future that I want to see. And one of the projects I've been talking to is AI companions for dogs. And there's this element called pee to earn. And when I heard pee to earn, I was like, hey, like my dog pees everywhere. And if I can earn from that, sign me up. So what they're trying to do is you can scan your own dog's nose print, and it would verify that this dog is unique, and they would create a representation on chain. It's kind of like Tamagotchi, if you've ever played it, a mix of Pokemon Go. Like the pee to earn, like there's no actual peeing going on in real life. You just like walk with your dog like virtually, and then pee on monuments for points. And that's kind of how it works. It sounds ridiculous. Jordy and Justin is looking at me like I'm stupid for even like considering investing.
Justin, do you have a dog? Can you try this? You like to try everything.
I don't have a dog anymore. I had one, but okay. So I can't just. Can I borrow your dog, Taiki? Scan the nose and then.
Well, my dog is my dog. It's a one of one. You can't take away my dog.
GM from Brussels, at least for me and Justin. This is episode 51 of Steady Lads. Two of us are here in EthCC. Taiki is FOMOing, or maybe not so much. Maybe you've been seeing some of the headlines.
Yeah, I feel safe in New York. I feel safe. Definitely safe in New York.
Safe in Brooklyn. That's not something that should be normal. But I haven't had any issue. Justin, I think with your karate training, you're probably scaring people off. Have you had any encounters?
No encounters at all, and I've been roaming around too. Just last night, I left the Rave party. We scootered to the Bear Chain rave, and then left at 2 a.m. and the streets were peaceful. I think as long as someone posted a tweet of what areas to avoid unless you know how to fight, and I think if you stick to that map, you're good.
Yeah, well, maybe it's because your intimidating physique, or maybe not. I don't know. Let's we had a little picture go viral on crypto Twitter with Justin from last night. Got a pretty interesting one here. So not a female in sight. 0% probability we've topped. And who are you? What's the situation here, Justin?
So I wanted to meet for the first time in person one of our favorite guests on Steady Lads, Suzu. Fortunately, he was at the party I was at last night. Got a chance to say hello, and really quite a charming guy. So got to shill him a little bit about what I've been working on and have a good conversation with him. And hopefully he'll be on the show more. Taiki kind of roasted me here with this one, though.
What were you mansplaining to Sue? I mean, going back to the photo, if you scroll down, seems like
I think at this very moment, I was telling him, "You don't remember me? I was on. He came on my podcast, Steady Lads. You know Jordy, right? I'm friends with Jordy."
And he's just smiling awkwardly.
I like the analogy, Taiki. I think Justin's bicep needs to get a little bit bigger, but we're almost there. Unfortunately, there have been episodes of people getting robbed and everything, and we had the bold Leonidas cartoon on topic here. We can bring up where it does feel like a little bit of a crusade. It says, "Are you doing cosplay?" It's like, no, I'm going to Brussels, just like full crusade shield and everything.
Well, what's been crazy I've seen is like even taking all that stuff aside, like seeing Vitalik. So I've been going to a lot of talks actually, more so than I've ever gone at a conference. I've gone to a couple of Vitalik talks, one where I actually had the opportunity to speak right before him. So I got to meet him backstage. Funny interaction there. But the other thing I noticed is like, he'll go to these talks with like 200, 300 people and there's no security. Like he walks in alone, he walks out alone, no metal detectors, no security. And it's wild to me that we don't have that.
I'm glad you're going to the talks because I saw a picture of, I think it was a side event with, Say and Aptos. I think you can bring up some of the pictures here, but massive room, tons of chairs. And I think you got the founders of like two of the large cap protocols. And there's like two guys on their phone basically out of the like 8,000 chairs. So
So
This is
I actually wanted to go to this, Jordy. I messaged you seeing if we could meet at this event. I think no one went to this because it was like a 30-minute Uber. It was really far outside of the city, but I have gone to several events where it looks exactly like this, and I'm one of only a few people in the room. We also have like this thing in our industry where like there's always like people gathered in the back just talking to each other. So you can often never hear the talks themselves. Like everyone's always like talking and socializing and networking. No one's actually listening to the talks.
Yeah, I've done keynotes with like 10,000 people in the room, and then I've done talks where there's like two guys and they're like not paying attention, and I have to give like a speech for 30 minutes, and it builds character. It builds resilience doing both. You have the two extremes, and if you're comfortable doing both, then that's the ultimate goal. So on my side, I've done a few panels. I had some with Santiago, who's the co-host of Empire podcast, our friendly competitors, and that was a blast. The guy is he's a free thinker, and I don't agree with all his takes. It makes it even more interesting. I did go to the main event, walked around. I wasn't too excited. There was a couple things I liked. There was some progress happening on the Web2 user bring-in, which is something that I finally want to see people where they can just click a link and then the wallet gets created for them. Apparently, passkeys are the thing now. So Apple passkeys, you just use no passwords. You just scan your biometrics and get access to the wallet. I think that's fine for things like NFTs and if it's not your entire net worth, that's a good place to start. Have you seen anything interesting, Justin?
Yeah, I have. I've been using a lot of those apps where you sort of like create a wallet with a passkey. Base has introduced their wallet for that. And then also at EthCC, they have this walletless basically raffle going on where you scan the QR code on your phone of these 10 red balloons they have hidden around the event. And if you scan all 10, you're entered into the lottery, and it, creates this like private cryptographic experience for you, but you don't even have to deal with a wallet, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. No, one of the few things that I left quite excited by, because ultimately the user experience does need to get better, and this is the kind of stuff that I want to see. Yeah, I mean, nothing too crazy. Generally, it feels like the market is starting to realize that the infrastructure thesis is overcooked, and I've been feeling this for a while, but we've still had the valuations on all these like ghost L1s, L2s defy my feeling, but finally it's starting to appear. And then, hopefully we'll focus a bit more on apps.
I guess what I'll say, I mean, it feels that way. People are sort of exhausted. Like everyone I talk to is exhausted by like, we're talking about new chains, new L2s, new layer ones, ZK, etc. But like Gwei has been one for the past couple of weeks. And there is this sort of like energy here of like, well, why are we building all this cool tech? Like who's even going to use it? Like who needs an intent-based blockchain? Who needs these ZK scaling solutions? And there really are no, like I've been going to a lot of events. There really aren't many like app-based events. Like I don't think I've gone to one event that was dedicated to like an interesting new app that was coming out. And I think even a lot of the app projects themselves are not putting on events here. Like I haven't seen a Uniswap event or like a DYDX event or GMX event and just really anything from the Ethereum ecosystem or outside. It's all been infrastructure. Have you had the same experience, Jordy?
Yeah, I don't know if some of it is maybe regulatorily driven where, layer ones are a bit more comfortable displaying themselves versus app tokens are a little bit more like worried from a regulatory perspective. But I did run into some apps at one of the side events, and apparently, Taiki, you have invested in one of these ones. Can we see the name or just the concept, or what do we want to do here, Taiki?
Yeah, so I guess we can talk about the concept. I feel like, we're all getting this infra fatigue, right? It's like L2s are like the Uniswap forks of this cycle. They just keep popping up. And I'm trying to invest in like consumer apps. I'm trying to invest for like a future that I want to see. And one of the projects I've been talking to is they're trying to do like AI companions for dogs. And there's this element called pee to earn. And when I heard pee to earn, I was like, hey, like my dog pees everywhere. And if I can earn from that, sign me up. And apparently I didn't know this, but like the dog's nose print is like really unique. It's similar to like a human's fingerprint. So what they're trying to do is you can scan your own dog's nose print and it would verify that this dog is unique, and they would create a representation on chain. And there would be elements. It's kind of like Tamagotchi, if you've ever played it, a mix of Pokemon Go, where you would like the P to earn, like there's no actual peeing going on in real life. You just like walk with your dog like virtually, and then pee on monuments for points. And that's kind of how it works. It sounds ridiculous. Jordy and Justin is looking at me like I'm stupid for even like considering investing.
Justin,
like
do you have a dog? Can you try this? You like to try everything.
I don't have a dog anymore. I had one, but okay. So I can't just. Can I borrow your dog, Taiki? Scan the nose and then
you just go.
Well, my dog is my dog. It's a one of one. You can't take away my dog.
You know how like when we were all scanning our eyes for WorldCoin, and people would be like buying off people in Africa to like use their eyeballs and like giving them $20 to do it. Like maybe I'll just start finding people on the streets here, giving them $20 to scan their dog's nose and really farm this airdrop.
I think there would be like proof of dog elements to it. It's like one thing I was kind of curious about is there's like these AI companionship stuff, right? It's like AI humans. They can, bring your dead grandpa back to real life. I mean, or not real life, but like virtually. That sounds kind of weird. But like, what if, unfortunately, the day that the day my dog passes away will be like one of the saddest days of my life. But like, would I still appreciate like this digital version of my dog that has its own mind? I'm like that part. I'm not sure.
You wouldn't. I can answer that question for you.
It sounds really dystopian.
You just get it but when your dog dies. You don't build the AI version of it.
Yeah, I guess so. So maybe this app is bearish, but I'm willing to believe. We need to believe in something.
We are seeing other stuff like that, and I think we have a new Puff competitor, the Puff Mantle meme coin. There's now vape to earn with the token ticker Puff, and I think this was going around the conference here, but it's pretty interesting. They're using incentives to get people to quit smoking and reduce vaping over time with green tea extract, which Jordy, you say is quite popular in Asia. And then the rewards are all verifiable on chain, where each pod is a token minter. So as you're replacing pods, you're getting more tokens here. And I think
this is the Bera Chain project, part of their Build a Bera incubation. And I don't know if it's popular in Asia. They say that they have there's 80 million people in Asia that vape this stuff. And wow, they want to do Puff tokens. That's interesting.
That's what I'm saying. There's a little competition
for us. Like sometimes people buy the wrong ticker. This will be good. We'll get some inadvertent Puff buying. Yeah, I mean everyone's trying X to earn, and this is the latest. They seem to say that this will help you reduce vaping, or maybe reduce tobacco. Maybe that's what they mean.
I think so. Yeah.
Wow. And they can expand to other markets too, I guess. Yeah, I really like this concept of X to earn. That's not like play to earn with gaming, because to earn tokens, humans have to take an action in the real world that produces some economic activity. I feel like that's, I feel like that could be powerful. Of course, most of these things are going to fail, but trying to connect crypto to drive human behavior in the real world, like I feel like that is like consumer deep in that I really find fascinating. So yeah, I'm more than happy to keep looking into these potential consumer apps.
Do you guys think these are just like loyalty programs on steroids? Like, remember when, with Coca-Cola, you could scan the bottle cap and get points that you could redeem for giveaways and rewards? Like, is this just a more liquid version of that?
We'll see. It feels a little bit last cycle, right? Like we had Step to earn, we had Sex to earn, we had all this stuff that was.
Step-in was the big one, though. Step-in was the first and biggest to walk to earn app, right?
Well, that was actually a successful one.
Yeah.
I think that one made a little bit of sense because people are willing to spend money in essence to motivate themselves to exercise. But yeah, we'll see what the next one is. Taiki seems to be pretty excited. I mean, I can't say that there's a lot better, exciting stuff out there. I have been going kind of deep into the AI rabbit hole. I think AI agents are going to probably change the world in the next few years, and there's going to be opportunities for crypto to be a part of that. But yeah, L1, L2 feels like we don't need more and more. There's maybe a few that we want to go through that might perform on a price action basis a little bit good. Maybe let's bring up some of the latest and greatest CoinGecko. So at the time of recording, a little bit of red, but I think the market's bounced off the lows at least. We're no longer at 2,800 ETH. And did we touch 54? That was a little bit scary for a little bit. So, we're kind of still in this choppy period. I think some of the L1s that are interesting and that people are talking about a lot. Number one is probably Ton. Seems like most conversations I've been having here lead to Ton at one point. Like people want more opinions. They see that, there's a lot of obviously like traction and there's a lot of potential users. I think the tech is still not fully there, and then a lot of the apps are like tap 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 tap. Justin, any views on Ton?
It's interesting you bring it up. I went to two talks I listened to Vitalik twice this conference, like 2 days in a row. And both talks, he took reserved like 1 minute of his time to tell people to get off Telegram because it's not private and it's not secure and it's not an app that any of us should be using, is what he says. I don't know if now that's because they're competing and they have a blockchain or if there's merit to that. But he said, Signal's a little better. And then there's one he said he recommends that's even better. But to get everyone off Telegram at this point in the crypto space seems like a challenge. But he was really, really against Telegram.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, it kind of reminds me. On one of the panels I was at, on one of the side events, they asked, what does it mean to be Ethereum aligned? And is it important to be Ethereum aligned for a founder or for a project? Is that a thing? And my answer was Ethereum aligned means that instead of talking at these side events, you're just talking at the main conference. And it feels like
I like that.
there's like this ivory tower where it's a little bit disconnected, I think, from where most of the activity is happening, and telling people to get off of Telegram to use like Signal or something else.
Pretty out of touch with like actual humans, actual people.
I'll give you another out of touch example. So I thought Vitalik did actually a really good job at his talk, but there was another thing that was super out of touch. Someone raised their hand. They did a little Q&A and asked about meme coins and like what Vitalik's thoughts are on meme coins, basically. And he started talking about how we should be using these meme coins to like fund social projects and social good. And he wrote a blog about that. And the whole time I'm like listening to that and I'm kind of like looking out the audience. There were a few hundred people there. I was sitting off to the side and I was thinking, well, like on the surface here, we have a billionaire, very successful person, very humble though, like a nice person. But this is a billionaire telling all of these people in the crowd that are still like trying to figure out their financial journey and trying to make it. And now they're like being told that they're like meme coins purpose or like the project that they're working on or what they care about should be used for charity when these people are like still just trying to make it and, like take their first steps when, he's a billionaire. And I thought, to me, that was a little out of touch. Like, I don't know if the use case for meme coins is to fund charities. I don't think that makes much sense.
I think it's okay. I mean, his mindset at this point is not, how to help more and more people get rich. I guess he's already done that with, all the people that joined the ICO and everything. I think at this point, he's just thinking about how to make the world more in the image that he would like it to be. And that's totally fine for someone as successful as that.
It's like, Jordy, imagine you have $2,000 to your name and it's all in on-chain meme coins. And now you're hearing like the Pepe treasury is going to be donating, 20% of his treasury to get dumped on you to like, I think he donated his meme coins to like COVID preparedness or something like that. You wouldn't be pleased,
Yeah. I mean, he did say like, stop sending me these fucking coins. I don't want them in my wallet. Yeah. But let's go back to CoinGecko. Let's look at a few more of the charts. I mean, Ton is the one that I think has been overperforming throughout this choppy period. And there seem to be a lot of buyers and I've heard a lot of examples of, not crypto natives talking about it. So maybe it's the next Cardano.
Yeah, I think Pantera made its biggest investment into Ton and the Ton ecosystem. And I think Telegram, like they can't really run ads. Sometimes they have these groups where they run ads, but it's really hard to monetize these social apps. And if they can't go that route, then maybe they just have to go the on-chain route, introduce payments because they have a partnership with Tether. Maybe it can become like the USDT chain and overcome Tron. And Tron itself is already worth 12 billion. So if Ton can become Tron plus an actual on-chain gaming, whatever consumer app ecosystem, then yeah, like there's a bull case for it. But it's kind of hard to imagine right now. I just played Hamster Combat. I was tapping for like 30 minutes and I'm like, I'm over this. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately we need more users and Ton has the best chance of tapping into a huge user base. So we'll see how it plays out. I think it's hard to dismiss it, and it'll probably keep going up the charts. Is my feeling. BNB has been doing okay. I think is CZ meant to come out of jail soon? I feel like he'll want to do a few fireworks around the time that he gets out of jail. So my personal thesis is probably to at least expect that someone will try to pump BNB around the time of his jailbreak.
It's already such a big asset, though. It's going to be hard to pump it. But I guess the supply is cornered, so it's not as So it's might be easy to pump.
Yeah, sometimes you got to just think like, who's trying to make a message here? Who's trying to send a message?
I remember people tried to pump Luna ahead of like the trial. I'm not sure if that worked, but even the people tried to like long Doge ahead of Kabosu, like the dog passing away. I feel like crypto degens, like they'll look for any source of volatility and they'll come up with any sort of thesis because the markets are still pretty PvP. So I guess you have to bet on the cabal.
I'm curious, have you guys seen the sort of thesis or the conspiracy theory that every time a chain or ecosystem hosts a conference, the token does poorly? And I actually wanted to ask you, Jordy, like, is there actually something to this where like EthCC, they sold 7,000 conference tickets. So that means there's probably about 15,000 people here. I don't think the majority of people spend the money for the expensive tickets. Is it actually possible that there's like 15,000 participants out of the market that can't really be buying ETH or whatever asset? And so like that marginal decrease is what causes performance to lag, or is this just like a hokey conspiracy theory?
Yeah, I thought about this, but it seems hard to make that case scientifically, I think. And usually tokens go down when it's kind of been exhausted, which means that there's been a lot of buying going into it with certain expectations, and then there's no one left to keep that price. So I'm not sure. We've obviously had bullish conferences as well, so the meta has been not as consistent as it used to be. So let's see.
Bullish conferences.
Yeah.
In the past, every conference is bearish. But I guess all these conferences, it's to celebrate a particular ecosystem. So people are like, oh, I love this ecosystem, time to buy. And then there's like no one else after to like buy. All the marginal buyers are gone.
It doesn't always feel like, I feel like the Ethereum one has a lot of non-ETH things going on, a lot of other L1s, obviously, not just Barachain, but a lot of the other ones are here. And maybe that's the sign that you've made it, where you're not having to kick everybody else out that's not talking about your one thing. I think the Bitcoin conference is going to be interesting this year. Apparently, Donald Trump has announced that he's going to be speaking, which makes me very, very convinced that this guy is just leaning into the crypto thesis. He will be the crypto president. That was a good headline, and I think the market kind of pumped at least temporarily.
If he announces something like the strategic reserve there, or confirms it, or doubles down on it, that's going to be a wild event.
I mean,
yeah,
imagine. That would be insane.
But speaking of conferences, Jordy, the only swag I've accepted, I think you'll be very happy and proud of me, is a mantle shirt.
It is a nice and clean. They don't like to.
It's classic. Yeah, it's not ridiculous.
And there's a meth crystal on the back. I think if you flip it around, you'll see the red meth crystals. There we go.
Oh, an Ethereum crystal. I like that. It's nice.
Yeah. Is it too late to farm? Is it too late to farm Cook? How does it work? It just started.
No, it just started. Yeah, you just need to hold meth, and if you put it in any of the apps on Mantle, then you get more powder. Get more powder, get more Cook. So it's just beginning. I think it's going to be a 100-day campaign.
Okay, so for the next 3 months.
Yeah, and all the puff holders will get a chance to have some as well. We're releasing NFTs, which is super exciting. I think we'll show some of those once they're out. But I like PFPs for community building. I talked with Luca quite a bit during this conference. I think Pudgies has announced that they are also building their own chain, which I think is a logical end game. They've bought one of the teams. I think Saigar is part of that, and they're going to be trying to build an actual chain ecosystem around their IP, around their community. I think it makes a lot of sense. We're going to invest as well, see how it goes. But I like this stuff more than, some ZK thesis without any actual usage. Although, Justin, you were saying, you're eyeing one of the kind of bad launches as potentially a good opportunity.
Yeah, I was saying earlier, I think there's just a lot of signal in looking at these events and seeing what crowds are there and what types of people are getting excited and who you're getting to speak at these events. And so zkSync did an event in partnership with Lens, which is Stani's social Web3 project. And, I was looking at this and zkSync has just sort of been hammered. It's down, I think, over 50%. The FDV is 3.3 billion. Of course, there's not too much circulating. It's about 600 million circulating market cap. So there's obviously a lot of unlocks coming, but like this is starting to get pretty attractive, don't you guys think? 3.3 billion versus the optimistic L2s, which is sort of like old tech relative to ZK tech, are valued more than this. Like, what do you guys think about that?
I mean, this has been one of the more interesting launches because it launched so much lower than the expectations have been. And this is a project that everybody knows about. If you've been in crypto, I mean, these guys have been building since 2017, 2018, right? Like they've been really grinding away. And I think their expectation was 10 to 20 billion, especially when the market was good. It was more like 20. And then it launched that. Yeah, I mean, quickly, like you can see there, like even in the first like few hours, it went to 20 cents. I did buy some at 20 cents. I thought, surely this has to be the bottom. It's like 4 billion. It's much lower than all the comparables were expecting. Yeah, we're down to 16. It looks like an appealing price. I haven't sold. I'm still kind of holding. I think there's a lot of lessons here and probably in different categories. Obviously, they had the FUD around the airdrop. So that kind of hurt you could just say like the buzz, the go-to-market hype. There was a lot of people upset around how the airdrop was distributed, which I know, Justin, you always say like people will always be upset, but
I still think that. Vitalik thinks that too, for what it's worth. He talked about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's better and worse. Maybe bring up the other chart that was around this exact same time because it was the next day. So we were also part of this. So LayerZero, you can bring up. I think it launched the day after. Showing more signs of life. Obviously, it's not down only. It's back to the high price. Similar valuation, around 4 billion FDV. Also pretty hyped. Also, I think it was expected around 7. The private round was 3. So it's actually bounced below the private round, which, Taiki, are you surprised to see companies trading below their private rounds? This is a bit of a new barrier that is unexpected.
Yeah, I guess the problem is that, when these tokens launch, it introduces a couple $100 million worth of value. And the majority of the people that get these tokens, they were only farming it to dump, to accumulate more ETH or something, or USDC. And given the lack of, I guess, retail appetite and retail participation, there's like no one to really buy these things at launch. But I think given how zkSync is like at 3, Blast is sub 2, LayerZero, went to sub 3, you can actually make an argument that, maybe it's worth buying, these hated coins. Yes, there are VC coins. Yes, they're like relatively low float. But people have been complaining this entire time around, like retail doesn't get a good price because all the, price discovery happens in the private rounds. Well, like maybe this is what people wanted, right? Like you want people to dump, you want the price to dislocate to the downside. And if you actually believe in LayerZero, zkSync, maybe you're actually getting a good price relative to VCs that are locked for 4 years.
Essentially. I agree with the first part of the thesis for sure, which is that there's a few $100 million or maybe sometimes $1 billion of market cap that gets created on day one. There's a lot of people that have become very short-term focused and just looking to convert to their preferred currency, whether that's dollars or ETH or BTC. I wonder if it's a little bit of a natural progression where it's just like the survival of the fittest, and the people who have survived crypto and are still around are the ones who have not been back holding things down 99% and the ones who do convert it. And they become a larger and larger force of the market. And all the whales that still exist are like the ones that are good at farming. And maybe this is like the new direction. Unfortunately, it's hard to say.
Yeah, and that reminds me of this funny meme I posted today. Let me just pull it up. There are 4 types of airdrop farmers. There are the Zoomers, right? They're the Zoomers with their haircut and they're new to crypto, actually learning and participating. They're poor but earnest. We have me, who deposits like $10 for 3 months. I do nothing else of value, and I complain on the timeline. And then there's the rich earnest people like Justin Sun, who deposits like billions of dollars in the EigenLayer and like diamond hands their coins. Probably sells it at some point. And then there's the types like Sisyphus that just continue to civil. I think one of the funny things about zkSync is that LayerZero put out this entire civil filter list, right, of all these addresses. And Sisyphus was like, oh, like I got civil filtered for LayerZero, but zkSync gave me all their tokens from all these wallets. I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but I just kind of thought that this meme was pretty funny. And I guess there is a survival of this, right? Because over time, the longer you're in the space, crypto conditions you that selling is good, right? Like you don't want to hold these things. So the only types of people that are like around to farm these things are just the prolific dumpers. And therefore there's like so many sellers, not that many buyers. It is hard to buy these things though, because buying zkSync here relative to holding ETH and like airdrop farming, that there is a cost of capital and opportunity cost. And I also think that that's why people, right, like rotate back to ETH, because farmers farm with ETH. So they dump this airdrops to accumulate more ETH to farm something else. And it's like this constant rotation of farming capital.
There's been a lot of, talk about financial nihilism, and definitely people that I've met in the space that have been around a long time that have gotten burned by, Luna this or, different contractions that have not worked. They do eventually become a little bit more jaded, I would say. And on the other hand, on a macro level, things are starting to get interesting again. And let's talk about macro for a few minutes, because I was listening to some of the macro podcasts that I generally like to keep in touch of. And hearing the latest chatter and the latest like moves in the market, I do feel like now is the time that I might start paying a little bit of attention to macro once again, because we're in an interesting spot where the US dollar as a currency, we all know that it's not going to go away anytime soon. And like all these people who think it's just going to disappear, maybe don't understand geopolitics, but it's an interesting time in the markets. Potentially we will get some inflation readings, as we've been seeing lately, that will allow cuts to happen. And the Federal Reserve would like nothing more than to be able to cut rates, because right now, the amount of interest being paid on the national debt is so insane that, there's literally just a bottomless pit of ever increasing debt.
That I've heard this argument in other macro podcasts I listen to, that high rates are actually inflationary, because you're giving all these rich people with dollars like 5%, and they're gonna what are they gonna do with it? They're gonna spend, they're gonna buy assets with like the 5% yield. Do you think that holds any value? Because that kind of goes against, I guess, what we learn in economics. But like maybe that is panning out. Like maybe higher rates is somewhat inflationary, and cutting could be better to manage inflation.
Yeah, well, actually, it's funny you say that. Unplanned, but let me show you one of my tweets, because I think I was the first person online to talk about this last year. Yeah, so this is February 23, when people were expecting that raising rates was going to fix this inflation problem. And I kind of realized from first principles at the time that, yeah, not so fast, cowboy. So actually paying a large interest rate to all the financial asset holders, creates more money, puts more money in the system. They're just not spending it, but just buying assets. So it encourages things that maybe are not conducive to getting the economy under control. If you scroll down here in this post I made about a year and a half ago, and Lynn Alden was sort of beating the drum around the same time similarly. There are situations where increasing rates can cause tightening and disinflation, but when the debt is so high and there's so much money that it's giving out 5% risk-free, it just gives so much extra printed wealth for no risk-taking in the economy. And unfortunately, bonds are kind of like the odd asset out, where we start needing the governments to incentivize bonds more, that's where you start getting to things like yield curve control, as we're seeing in Japan, or they force big entities to buy the bonds because somebody has to buy them. So,
well, I will say, Jordy, I mean, it's. I don't know if you can ring the victory bell right now, because, of course, we don't know if this is the reason why, but inflation has come down, right? Raising rates presumably had an impact, or was the main driver of interest rates coming down, or inflation coming down to 3% as of today and 3.3% for core. So it did work. We didn't have this catastrophic spiral that, Lynn Alden really was beating the drum behind, right? So how would you explain that?
Oh, it's not. I know. I think you definitely can. I mean, this was 18 months ago, and 18 months ago, if you look at the interest rate curve, the futures were pricing in like 8 cuts by now, and we've had 0 cuts. So the higher for longer has fully proven out. I mean, it's been 18 months. They haven't been able to do anything because, yeah, we're not at hyperinflation levels, at least the way they count it, but we are still way above target. I think now with the deteriorating job data for the first time, and unemployment is going above 4. Unemployment already is a bad metric because it doesn't count all the people who are not actively looking for jobs. And that's been quite a large change over 2019. So right now what we're seeing is they're going to have a window where they will be able to cut rates a little bit. Obviously, Europe has already started. Other economies are really wanting to take the gas off the pedal a little bit and give a little bit of breathing. But we're just going to see more inflation. It's not going to go away, I think. And ultimately, the national debt is the key differentiator that takes us back to a time where we will need a bit of a reset for the entire economy. So, long way of saying that things like Bitcoin will come back into play. I do feel a bit weird listening to these macro podcasts because these guys all love gold so much that they just assume by default that gold will be the answer, like that is the base currency. It's usually, men over 45. And I understand that everyone's looking for a base currency apart from the dollar, and it makes sense because this is the 5,000-year Lindy option. But I really feel that, guys of your guys' age, people in their 20s that are even in their 30s, don't see gold in the same sort of way, and they're looking maybe for a digital alternative. So,
don't you think in some ways gold has been replaced by like S&P 500 ETFs and index funds as like the best store of value?
Yeah, probably. Stocks, I think, are undoubtedly a good store of value because even in inflationary environments, they will inflate as well. We're seeing this passive index effect where there's just money always going in the index without anyone even thinking about it, just automatically from pensions and everywhere else. So there's always a bid there. We're seeing S&P to new highs. For me, this is just even more inflationary. I mean, the cost of a hotel room is a metric to watch. And I don't know about you guys, but I used to be able to get much nicer hotels for the same price like 5-10 years ago than now.
I definitely agree. I think the S&P is like the best store of value. But how do you think this, if the Fed is going to cut rates in September, maybe even in July, I think the market is pricing in an 85% probability that they'll cut, by September. What do you think that does to asset prices, like more notably crypto? We have the ETH ETF happening presumably next week. Rate cuts on the horizon. A lot of the crypto apes, the degens, they're banging their chests saying that this is bullish. We're going to go to Valhalla. Of course, it's not as simple as that. But like, what do you think happens to, I guess, the crypto markets as a result of this macro backdrop?
I mean, the macro backdrop has been holding us up, I think, from collapsing during a period where governments have started dumping their long-held coins, and we have to absorb it. Because stocks are at all-time high, I think there's enough of a emotional reaction there that like we'll be okay. This is just a blip because asset prices are still doing well. We have politics coming into play in the U.S., so I think both Biden and Trump are bullish in the sense of the existing government is going to want the economy to be good in November, and I think as Trump starts to promise more and more printing and more promises of number go up, which I think he will, and that's his whole shtick. Pretty bullish going into end of year. I think for crypto, a lot of stars are aligning. Next year, there'll be a point where we'll get over our skis, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because I know crypto has been suffering recently because of the Germany, government selling. Do you think it is as simple as after this idiosyncratic sell pressure subsides, we're just going to start going up? Can the markets be that simple? Or, is it more complicated than that?
No, I think it's that simple. It's a lot to absorb. We underestimate sometimes when you look at the market cap of crypto at $2 trillion, and we think that, if it's just a few percent, it's not going to matter. But these things move a lot based on, front running things of these size, like in the billions of dollars. They'll still move markets up 10, 20%, and then they'll rebalance after.
And I guess if we're all bullish, I think we're all bullish on ETH ahead of the ETF, into the ETF. I guess Justin kind of showed his zk thesis as a potential ETH beta play. But what do you think about, what do you guys think about ETH beta? Do you think it makes sense to look for ETH beta, buy memes, or does it just make sense to just be heavily allocated to ETH, just ride the inflows, airdrop farm here and there, eke out some additional APY? Is that that's personally how I'm positioned. But I'm wondering if the panel here have different thoughts on how to best be positioned into end of year.
I think for me, it always comes down to portfolio construction. If you're almost all in on zkSync as opposed to ETH, right? That's probably a bad mistake, no matter how bullish you are or how much inside knowledge or technical knowledge you have. Because at the end of the day, these things are so correlated that if we have a downturn, if ETH goes down 50%, zkSync's going down 75%, regardless of how good the tech is. So for me, it's all, at this point, just about allocating small percentages here to projects that I want to learn more about and be involved in. But I think also at this time, where we're at right now, there's no clear narrative or no clear innovation that I feel really excited about. And I think in times when you're not too excited, you just stick to the majors. I've also talked about my thesis, if we're not seeing new consumer apps and we're not seeing new innovation on the app layer that people will really fall in love with and use like we had in DeFi summer, that's probably when you want to hold Bitcoin. But when there starts to be new innovation, new apps, things people are getting excited about people moving on chain, that's when you want the community money. That's when you want the ETH. So,
yeah. Speaking of innovation on chain, celebrity coins, Iggy Azalea coins, mother coins, but hypothetically, she's trying to innovate in her own way, I think, and I think recently she struck a deal with DWF, the notorious market maker and Wintermute. Jody, whenever you see news like this, how do you make of this? Is this going to make token go up, or
yeah,
is it?
Yeah. So obviously altcoins have been going down, and there's fingers wanting to get pointed in somewhere. And market makers are these boogeymen that always are the ones responsible.
They control the price.
They control the price. They tell you what the price is. So there's a huge lack of understanding and education of what market makers do and what some of them maybe that cross certain boundaries do. So Iggy in this tweet, was pretty proud to announce about her coin that she cares so much about, that there's market makers now in DWF and Wintermute. I'm not quite sure that she understands the basics of market makers and what they do, given that they don't really have centralized exchange listings and order book listings. Most of the liquidity is, traded on AMMs for these coins, right? These are tiny coins on AMMs. It's not clear to me that it needs a market maker when it's just on an AMM. And also, it's not clear to me that she understands that these guys are probably just getting a call option and able to sell coins as they go up without actually providing much apart from their brand name. And it seems like she was getting a little bit of a pushback here from people in the comments. I saw that Kobe responded as well.
I think one day we need you to do a segment on how these market making deals are structured and what you should look out for when you're going to sign one, because these things are crazy complex and it's insane to expect the average founder or the average person no matter how financially literate they are, to understand these things. Like this is something that you guys play in every day, and like we have no idea how it works. So it'd be cool to do a class on that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, Justin, I mean, I saw like on our last episode, you got the highest commented, liked comment was somebody saying that Justin is amazing at like asking questions that nobody, feels comfortable to ask because they don't want to sound stupid, but you just like ask all the questions. So if you want to do next or one of the next couple episodes, your amazing preparation and we can go through this. I think it would be very useful for people to understand. And there's a lot of like misconceptions to go through.
Yeah, I have some of these contracts floating around. I'm sure you do too. We can redact some of the names and participants and just talk through the structure of some of them.
Ultimately, I think it's a very important thing to do because there's two types of products in crypto, and they're usually the same team that has to do both. One is the infrastructure, like the actual app that Web3 users are supposed to be using, and then there's the coin, which is arguably like there's hundreds of millions of people on Binance and Coinbase, and you have a much bigger target market than the 1 million people that are doing things on chain. It's like 100x, and you have products on both sides, and ultimately there's a relationship between the two because if one gets really hyped, then maybe the coin gets hyped, but they're not one-to-one, and everyone in the crypto space probably needs to understand more. I was told that at one of the large conferences, especially the investor ones where they have all the funds, they're not really talking about the tech anymore. They're talking about token launches and what makes a good token launch and market makers and all this stuff, because ultimately it's such a big part of the puzzle now that people can't ignore it.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be great to go over. I mean, it feels like it's a dark forest out there if you don't live and breathe this world. I mean, also even before you've built the project, when you're fundraising and you start, pitching people that you think would be good investors and value add. I know you do a lot of investing, Jordy. A lot of these market makers will even want you to sign a market making agreement to have them invest. And then you're sort of like pre-committing to a market maker before you've shopped around, before you've raised money and can go to your investors that have experience and can like tell you whether this is a good deal or not. So it's an interesting space. And I think a lot of founders fall into pitfalls there. And a lot of retail just alone thinks there's shady stuff happening. So we should do an episode on that.
Okay, we'll do it. You'll be the questioner in chief and we'll go through some of the interesting stuff there. Cool. I mean, let's plan for that. Maybe not for next episode, which will be our anniversary one. We'll try to get some good guests for that, but let's do it for the next one. And how about we do some pastas? Taiki, you want to kick off?
Yeah, so I saw this pasta. I thought it was pretty funny. I think it's relevant to our previous conversation. So I think at EthCC, there was this big cake that talked about all these layers. And no one ate the part where it says application layer. And the quote says, the application layer untouched as usual. It's like all these people, they want, the permission layer, like all the infra, but no one wants to touch apps, like it's unfathomable to create an app in this space. So I just thought that was like pretty funny. And maybe this explains EthCC well. How about
this cake looks disgusting though. It completely explains what's happening here. I thought this was like a cake that they had served at some event here. And it's like, it is funny when you go to like these events, always like the food table gets absolutely mobbed. It literally looks exactly like this always. So.
What's even in there is like blue, green, pink. Like
it's a rainbow
all the
cake.
layers.
It's a rainbow
tech
cake.
Stack.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's a tech stack. It's all mumbo jumbled, just like Ethereum.
Yeah, so originally I was going to present this pasta. It was going to be fun, novel, exciting, and really encapsulate my EthCC experience. I'm basically the guy here sitting in the middle listening to these talks. So the pasta is, maybe they have seen the tech and no one cares. But I'm not going to do you guys like that. I'm going to give you guys another pasta because Jordy had already sort of presented this image. So I wanted to keep it EthCC themed. So I want to tell you guys a little story that happened last night at Rave. So having a great time with some friends. I had some colleagues from Astaria, some former employees, some founders. We're having drinks, having a great old time, delicious beer. And, you're drinking a lot of beer, you got to go pee. So I go downstairs, I go to pee. I've got my beer in one hand, I got my phone in the other. I'm up at this urinal and I'm just sort of, free dangling. My hands are tied. I'm just sort of unzipped. When you have a few drinks, you're just kind of hanging out there and chilling. And the show has gotten a little big, right? We got a lot of viewers of Steady Lads. And so I literally had this happen to me. One of our amazing viewers, super nice guy from Bulgaria, comes up to me. I'm being there doing my thing, looking at my phone, texting, seeing what event to go to next. And he goes, "Hey, you're Justin, right? From Steady Lads." We had a little conversation, and then he looks down at me and he goes, "I really got to learn how to pee like that. You're just multitasking. You got your hands tied. You're peeing. Like, how are you doing this?" So it was like one of the better Steady Lads introductions. People are not shy about saying hello, and I'd love to meet you guys too. So anytime, whether I'm at the urinal, in the stall, dancing, just come and say hi.
Hands free.
I've never had this happen to me before, but I guess it happens. Just people, there's like 10 urinals.
We gotta get you to a conference. I guess at Token 2049, Taiki.
Yeah, I have to be careful with public bathrooms. They're going to be people chasing me in the urinals.
And Europe's not big on the dividers. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. Not big on the dividers here. You don't get much privacy. So I'm doing the 2-hand thing. I'm trying to sort of like pivot my body a little bit to the right and hide. But is what it is.
What it is what it is. I will share an AI pasta here. So this is perverse economic incentives, and it's the usual meme where the Star Wars characters are here. AI is going to be used to change the world as a tool to make the world better, right? As a tool to make the world better, right? And in the second, someone has like put some huge boobs on
Padme.
on the character.
I think it's Padme, right?
It is, yeah. Padme looks a little bit different here. Yeah. Look, I understand that this is going to be prevalent. I talked to some Anons who are telling me that the reason they're Anon is they don't want their face to be out there. Apparently, like us doing a podcast, we're at risk of people taking our face and doing all kinds of porn or I don't know what with it. So we have to keep an eye out for people using.
Yeah, I mean, I got deep faked actually literally just last night. This was a deep fake. This isn't me.
Oh, man. Cool. All right. So we'll let the audience on our Twitter choose which pasta is the pasta of the week. Guys, we're closing a year. Closing a year of episodes. So hopefully we'll get some good guests, like rare guests, like Thicky maybe. Hopefully,
yeah.
And yeah, we'll catch everybody then. Talk to you soon.